it's really nice to be here with all of you. I had the opportunity to do this last year. Took some learnings, and really what today's about for me, team, is unpacking this term being thrown around quite a lot, which is social first or social transformation. I think we're living in an era and we're living through a time that calls for significant change. One of the things that I have always observed growing up is that the things that affect us, humans, the most, generally have a really good side and a really dark side. So if you think about in history, when the internet came out, crazy prosperity, incredible growth and economic power. But on the other side came an era of scams, people getting caught on the internet, addiction, right? Everything that really changes the world has two of those polar opposites. And I think when you start to see those two outcomes, you start to really understand the magnitude of that change. More recently, with the crypto revolution, right? That's a big change the world thought about, went through. And what ended up happening? You have a bunch of amazing companies and prosperous folks who have changed their lives with crypto. And you have guys serving 25 to life in the Bahamas, right? But all that to say, team, that's where we're at with social media. If you guys recall this really intense moment not too long ago, these are parents that have had their lives changed because of social media in a very hard and very awful way. But on the inverse, you have Miss Rachel, right? Who I can tell you as a dad of 3 incredible babies, she's played a really amazing role in teaching and being able to use YouTube as a platform to advance our children. I would argue that those 2 slides paint a pretty interesting picture about the magnitude and the power of social media and what it's done to the world and what we're going through today. The world is changing. So when we think about what we believe at Viral Nation that makes us get up every day and go to work and work our butts off, we run our whole business off a core set of beliefs. 1, all humans are or will soon become influencers and creators, everyone in this room. I don't think we're going to have a politician without social media again, unfortunately. We're not going to have a crazy successful real estate agent without social media, unfortunately. The world is becoming creators. Even though we might not aspire to be Mr. Beast or the Sea Boys or whoever it may be, it's becoming a pivotal part of our personal identities. I would argue everyone on here has a LinkedIn profile that they care about, that they utilize to build their business, build their networks, find their career paths. Very similar, you're a creator in that regard. Our next belief is that social media has radically transformed every aspect of the customer journey. If you work for a marketer or you are a marketer and you don't believe that social media is playing a role in the purchase decision like never before, I would ask you, if you bought a new car recently, did you watch a YouTube review before you bought it? That's going to drastically influence your decision, right? If you are sharing with your girlfriends or your buddies or whomever it may be products and stuff you're finding on Instagram, Pinterest, TikTok, etc., that's changing your behavior. Next is creators are this and future generations' new media. I've been in the influencer marketing space since almost 11 years. And I started at a time where creators didn't make any money. And they were just hobbyists. Now, we're choosing to watch them over cable television. YouTube's data from in-home watching, of us watching on our home devices, has skyrocketed, which means now we're turning to YouTube at home as opposed to turning to Fox or CNN or whoever it may be. Next is that brands must transition from traditional media-led to social media-led, putting social media in the center of their businesses. We believe that emphatically. And we've seen that before. We've seen this transformation before. We're just in a new era of that change. Next is technology is critical in social media to simplify the complex and scale what can't be scaled. Social media is hard, 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 hard. I know I'm preaching. Everybody in this room knows that. You've probably heard it 3 times yesterday. What we do every day is really nuanced and really difficult. And that's okay. But technology is what we need in order to make our superpowers and our knowledge of what can be true happen. So what does an always-on social-first organization look like? It looks like this. When you think about social in the middle, we think about always-on influencer, always-on social content, dynamic community management, social-first experiential, strategy, measurement, attribution. The best brands in the world that are driving their businesses in social are running this play, and we're going to unpack it today. So social-first brands, in case anyone didn't realize, they're winning. They're winning, they're winning, they're winning. They're winning everywhere. There is no reason Logan Paul should be outperforming brands owned by Constellation, ever. If you went to the Constellation CEO and you sat down with him, Logan Paul's drink is outperforming 50% of your catalog right now, he would throw a chair at you. But it's just the reality of how social-first brands are able to tap into a place where others aren't. If you think about e.l.f. Cosmetics, e.l.f. Cosmetics is a 20-year-old business. Not a lot of people know that. Jeffree Star and other creators in the YouTube space are what propelled that brand into what it is today. They're one of the most agile and fastest growing TikTok brands in the world. And it shows. Third highest performing stock on the NASDAQ for 2023. So this is just to call out that these brands and these social first organizations are forming, they're already there, and they're taking market share and they're dominating. So when we think about always on influencer, I don't want to belabor the point, but creators are becoming more and more powerful. I've lived through so many different iterations of creator. When the CMO of P&G came out and said, I'm not spending money on creators, it's a fad. I lived through them saying that creators can't sell. I lived through them saying creators weren't worth the money we were paying them. I've lived through all that. But the reality is that now the stats can back that creators are one of the most powerful forms of marketing that exists in the world today. So when we think about the pivotal elements to succeeding, this is just more how we think about it and more for you to think about, are you hitting all of these elements when you're thinking about your creative marketing strategy? All-in-one tech solution? You can't be using 4 or 5 different technologies to do one thing. You need to bring it together. Advanced data filtering, how are we thinking about creator selection? Guys, gone are the days of that influencer looks like my customer, pay him. That doesn't work. There's 57 million creators, self-identifying creators in the world. Of those 57 million, I would argue that under 2%, maybe 3% if we're lucky, are going to drive ROI on a media buy. What does that mean? You need to filter through 57 million to find those 3-4%. So if you're not utilizing the data in order to do that, you're going to miss. Okay? When we think about strategic paid media, how are we amplifying? How are we amplifying the content effectively all the time? The algorithms on social are built for the audience not to see the content because there's so much. So if we're not layering in that portion, we're paying a creator to access 15% of their audience. What about the rest? Right? These are all little things, but these little things all put together create massive, massive change in how creator can be measured, how creator can be effective, etc. Value-driven negotiation, right? Understanding what to pay creators is one of the biggest Achilles heels that we have all had, right? The creators work for you. The creators are there to create an outcome for you. So when you go and buy an ad on Facebook or you go and buy an ad at home, etc., the goal is to create more value than what you're putting in. And you can't be afraid to have those conversations with creators because like I talked about in our beliefs, they're a new era media company. They're not Brad Pitt. Brad Pitt doesn't have 200 million people who watch him every 3 weeks, right? Creators' main asset is the media, is their audience. And that's the special part. And we need to define how we're negotiating and how we're thinking about those pricing. Measure, predict, attribute. Measurement in this space is hard. But there are ways to get through it, and there are ways to find the silver lining to make sure that we're being able to report the amazing work that everyone in this room does, right? For those of you in social, you know. You create your end-of-month brief, how social went, got to bring it up to the CMO. this, and this, but it's fluffy. And it's not fluffy because you don't know what you're doing. It's fluffy because it's fluffy. Like, when you're getting data of we grew this much this month, or we got this many impressions, or our follower count grew by this, that's just the tip of the iceberg. How many conversations are we having in the DMs with our customer? How many sales are we pushing through social? How are we garnering our ICP onto social to follow us, right? Social needs to be thought about in a way that helps us to understand the value we're producing. Because everybody in this room, believe it or not, is all on team social. And what that means is that it's us in this room and myself and all of you whose job it is and whose goal it is to validate this space. The better we do about talking about how we're winning, and the better we focus on being able to tell people the quality of what our work is producing, the faster and bigger the space will grow. The bigger your position will grow. The more budget we can get into that space, etc. So it's on us in these early innings of change to really get deep on how we think about data. When you think about what's possible, when you do influencer the right way and you do it at scale, you start to be able to see the fruits of that labor come to life. So we think about someone like Chegg. Chegg's an online learning platform for students. But what we talk about with Chegg is driving creator strategy onto TikTok in order to meet their goals and expectations of new client growth. Next, as we talk about always-on social-first organization of the future, is always-on social content. I talk to CMOs all the time, guys. They call me all the time. And when I'm on the phone with them and they say, Joe, we need to create content, we need better lo-fi content, we need to figure out how we get more content onto social, etc. I'm here to tell you, if you're a modern marketer in the social space, you don't need just content, you need a content turret. And that's the world we live in. Because as each and every one of you is posting, you're drowning out the person behind you, beside you, and to the right. And from a guy who's basically lived with influencers for 10 years, I can't tell you how many times I've heard, I posted this really crappy piece of content and it went viral. I spent 2 weeks shooting this thing and it did nothing. And that frustration of, why, like, but the answer is, guys, there is no rhyme or reason, right? You can't predict what social's going to do to your piece of content in advance. If we could do that, oh my God, we can't. So therefore, we need to be voluminous in our approach, and we need to make sure that we're filling all of the pipelines that way. 40% more views on average are attributed to lo-fi brand content than hi-fi brand content. Your content doesn't need to be good. It just needs to be social. If you think about how many times over the last couple days that you've looked down at your phone and chuckled at something you saw on Instagram or TikTok, and then if you go back and think, was that a good piece of content? 9 times out of 10, it was the shittiest piece of content you'd seen all day. Right? But that's the decision we made as consumers, was that shift. I remember when Fast and the Furious came out, and they didn't jump cars off skyscrapers and land. Right? But what we've done as humans in the world of entertainment is we've pushed organizations to premium. And then at some point, I think we got sick of it. It's like, I don't want the premium shit. Give me the weird TikTok meme that I can share with my friends and laugh my ass off about. Show me what this product does, but don't sell it to me. Just put it on. Right? Like, that's what we've started to love and enjoy. 79% of 13 to 36-year-olds are tired of seeing polished images in advertising. Why? Because, guys, we're smarter than we've ever been. We consume more content than we ever have. Back in the day when Coke would put out an ad, it was like the second piece of content you saw all day if you didn't have a TV. And no wonder it really had an impact on me. It was like, there's like 1 of 10 pieces of content I saw all day. I see 10 pieces of content every 10 seconds on Instagram. So premium doesn't win. Connection wins. So when we think about what that means, surrounding your brand with voluminous, always-on content, agency-led social content at scale. Hey, agency, I don't need a production. I need 300 TikTok videos today, right? You think about creator-led agile content. For a number of brands at our organization, we actually build micro-armies of creators who match the ICP of their customer to create us always-on content that they're sending in. It's not influencer marketing. It's influencer content procurement, right? And then content created at the nexus of culture and data. What is going on in the space? What's working? What's not? What is our customer like? Make that. People get too caught up in the creative element of content creation for social when the reality is it's just culture driving what's going to work and what's not going to work. And there's no way to predict what that looks like. When we think about, is that possible? Yes. 1,646 pieces of content in under a 48-hour period. Why? Because it's not polished, it's not crazy, it's just social. It's what you see every day. Next is dynamic community management. This one's a hard topic for me, team. Community management is rooted in social media not being as important as other channels. So where it started was, let's go hire someone to run our social handles, right? This wasn't like crazy executive hires. This wasn't crazy strategic. It was about making sure that we were there. But now, 20 to 40% more money is spent by customers who engage with companies over social media than by other customers. So when you DM someone back and answer their question, you just increase the probability of their LTV with your company extremely high, right? Community management is more than the vanity. Community management is a gateway to our customers. It's a gateway to sales, and it's a gateway to drive our businesses forward. And the faster brands start to understand that and utilize that channel effectively, the bigger and faster the companies will grow. I would argue that this point here is even more important than all the other pieces. Because if you nail this drives revenue, drives scale, and creates brand loyalty like you've never seen in your life. Okay? So when we think about, wrong button. So when we think about what that means, reactive and proactive community management, right? How do we get out there and how do we be there? We think about seamless social commerce experiences. Your team needs to understand how to leverage the commerce solutions that are coming to market now, right? Customer guidance and crisis communications. How are we getting in front of stuff? How are we talking to our customers? Loyalty programs. Guys, we've been measuring email marketing as a performance channel for literally 20 years. And somehow, social community management is a vanity thing. It's insane. We have clients and they're like, our performance on our email is not great this month. How do we get it better? And then it's like, our social content calendar looks great. We need to bridge that gap. Social should be selling our products and our services. Our social audience we've built on our platforms is not there to post cute pictures to. It's there to drive business. It's there to drive revenue for the company. It's there to drive loyalty. It's there to drive virality. Surprise and delight and loyalty programs are one of the ways we can do that. If every time you went and followed Starbucks for the first time, you got a free drink, how much faster would they grow? You follow Starbucks, they give you a DM, thank you for joining my community, here's a free coffee on us. No one does that. How about when someone comments something wonderful on one of your posts about how much they love your brand and you go, listen, Jen, 50% off your next purchase, we love you. You just got a sale. She's going to buy 4 or 5 more items. Again, guys, we're not using social to sell. We're not using social to drive and build business results. Special offerings, rewards, always on social listening. Humanize the brand, enhance the customer experience, drive conversions and revenue, increase brand loyalty, and unlock community-driven feedback loops. The 2 biggest brands, I can't name them, that All Nation works with today, both of their CMOs, right? I've worked with to basically set up a funnel where all of the DMs and all of the comments go to her every day. They're making products decisions based off of the social feedback they're getting. Literally. Like they're literally making products based on what people are commenting on their Instagram page. And guess what? When they launch them, it goes gangbusters. How hard is that? Right? I would argue how many of you folks in the room, if you're not CMOs or you are CMOs, look at that and use it. That's your customer literally going like, hey guys, would buy the crap out of this thing if you made it. Instead, we're sitting in a back room coming up with what the future of our business looks like in a vacuum to that information. That's crazy. Who's doing it well? 7-Eleven. 7-Eleven went on that journey, thought about it, and said, you know what? We're a convenience store brand. That's not sexy, but We're there when people need us to be there, and we're part of these local communities. And hey, we're going to really invest in making sure that we're driving the business results we need out of social. So when we think about 2,000 customers reached out to, positive sentiment scores have gone off the hook. Like, this is really big for a company like this who's had 1,000 meetings talking about how are we going to change how we're thought about in the future of these brands, and et cetera. All right. Next is social first experiential. I love this one. Experiential has been a form of marketing forever. I'd argue back to the Stone Age. It's like, come see my rocks. But you know what, guys? It's interesting because experiential is a big cost center. It costs a lot of money. And it's something that's really, really hard to measure. So what we've talked about and what we've developed is a sequence and a process that you can layer on top of experiential events that allows you to make an experiential event a social moment, a media moment, a brand moment, a content development moment, and even better yet, a conversion moment. So when you think about the event and traditional experiential here, if you layer on influencers for the event, I know that sounds simple and I know you do it, just bear with me. Brand social channels, full strategic insight and alignment of how we're going to run those channels at the event. Social publishers, these are the folks that are influencers without a face. Barstool Sports, at Cars, Beauty Gossip, right? These are these pages that are speaking to our culture and to our customers all the time. Targeted paid boosting to get our ICP on the nose. And then lastly, measure and attributed. And what you end up with is a much, 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 much more robust and meaningful event. So for Smartwater, this would have generally been 5,000 people on-site attendees, and we're done, right? Instead, we were able to get 42 pieces of brand content out of that activation, and 3 million people were reached from that event. So this is just little stuff. It's an add-on, but it's how you should be thinking about experiential as a part of a social-first infrastructure. How do you start to get cost centers and areas of the business that are costing a lot of money and exfoliate them with these tactics because it's possible? Lastly, team, brand safety. I can't tell you how difficult the last couple of years have been as it relates to brand safety and social media. People are scared. I get it. CMOs are scared. I'm scared to invest in influencer because if I make the wrong decision and I work with the wrong person, then my stock's going to drop by 35% tomorrow afternoon, and I'm dead, right? The world's in a very interesting cycle where we're sensitive, right? And I don't mean that in a way to defame how things are going and et cetera. Just, it's a different time. And because of that, it's critical that all of us are always thinking about how do we make sure we're aligning folks that are perfectly suited to work with my brand. And the rationale for brand safety is not cancel culture. It's not any of those things. It's to put a beautiful, beautiful piece on top of our industry to allow it to continue to flourish. Right? We talked about earlier in the conversation how with good, there's bad. Right? So I would argue you have these incredible creators who are professionals, who kick ass, who make the best content you've ever seen, who are amazing, etc. But unfortunately, around them, there's a lot of creators who aren't the best creators. There's a lot of creators who are hurtful. There's a lot of creators who use their presence to talk to kids in ways that I would say most of us would disagree with. There's folks who over-sexualize social media to benefit themselves in other categories and other things. Social media is not some Disney park. Social media is a scary, dangerous place. And the reality is that if we don't focus on the brand safety element and drive change, then folks are not going to want to invest into creators. And that's my biggest fear. So what I want to do is help creators to get the attention and opportunities they deserve without the piece behind it that makes it hard. $4.3 million is lost in average global sales by companies due to social media mistakes. That's a big, big, big number. It's more than most folks are spending on social. 80% of marketing professionals believe brand safety is a major concern. They're all thinking that, right? 82% of shoppers want a brand's values to align with theirs. Shoppers are going, hey, Google, you better stay in my ethics and what I love and what I perceive to be right, et cetera. Like I said, things are changing. So we worked on for 3.5 years with an AI technology to be able to power that type of a discovery and to equip brands with what they need in order to drive into that area in a way that's good for the creators, good for the space, and allows us to do it in an automated fashion. What folks don't know today, I'm sure the folks in this room do, is that folks are vetting creators manually today in a lot of cases, right? From the legal team at Disney to, unfortunately, a lot of the influencer marketing managers and folks who are running these programs. But the reality is we unlock a lot of bias when we do that, team. Because when we're looking through that content for bad things, we're also looking through that content and making assumptions. So our tool also levels the playing field so that if a creator is going to be selected for a campaign, what we're looking for is to make sure that those things that we are not okay with aren't there and that we can move forward. When we think about the scale, 70,000 creators have been run for this specific client, 11 million images and videos, and 195,000 hours of human time saved if they were to do that on their own. So this is just a byproduct of how we need to do different things to advance the space forward, to unlock the amazingness and the genius of what all of us are working on every day and what we're trying to bring forward to the world. So with that, I'll leave you with influencer marketing, social, content, paid, etc. is the future, team. And I think that everyone in this room is going to play a really big role in watching how social becomes the main priority of the biggest brands in the world over the next 5 years. And you're leading the charge. And I'm so grateful to be here. I'm so grateful to be around such amazing and awesome individuals who live in my world. And I would love to meet as many of you as I can. So thank you so much for the time. I hope it was insightful, and I hope you guys have an incredible rest of the week. Thank you.